How y'all doing? For this review, I'm going to review a book called Knight's Master by Tanith Lee. I always heard about Tanith Lee off and on. I see entire titles on the bookshelves and all that. And this one is the first of a series of books called the Flat Earth series, where this takes place in obviously in a fantasy world where the Earth is flat. There are different levels where there's demons in the underground, humans right around. There's the ocean, there's the heavens, and there's the land of the dead. But this one deals mostly with the underworld and the human world, with very little of anything else. So, what's this? It's a series of short stories, and centralized among the Prince of Demons of this world of Azhrarn. A very beautiful, shape-shifting demon prince who rules the underworld, and he every once in a while, if he wants, from the activities of enjoyment and entertainment, he travels up to the human world and causes havoc among the human inhabitants. It's kind of like a cross between Lucifer and Loki. And the stories are in 3 parts, and first, each part has a series of sequential short stories where the events of one may have a character, in that story be the main focus of the second one, or at least have them do something in there. Let me explain. In part 1, Azhrarn finds this human child from a mother who is dying. She's dying, she weeps, and he's like, well, at least you don't have to suffer anymore. And the little child, and the horrors of this, all that. But the mother, shows him a child, and he is, fallen for this, the beauty of this child, who's just came into the world. So he takes the child, raises the child his own, and, as his most favorite person to interact with. And as the child grows up, he has him sworn to Azhrarn in a way that, well, there's a reason on the bottom here it's called an adult fantasy to sort of seal the deal. I won't get into details there. But he has him swear by Azhrarn and, to not anger him in any way. But unfortunately, the man, despite giving everything, because he's human, longs for a day, longs to be in the sunlight of his own world. Azhrarn gives him 1 day in there, but that wasn't enough. He wants to spend further on that. This angers Azhrarn. He sends him out and later tricks him to his death. And because of that, one of the characters in that story, a woman given to this young human, the favorite of the Demon Prince, she cries tears which are collected by a minor demon and forged into this beautiful necklace that will, enchant, to please the Demon Prince. But he gets them stolen and by another Drin, and just to present to the prince and say that he, to take the credit. And Azhrarn, after he resolves this, is okay. None of you will get the credit. I'll send this to the world where I'll wreak havoc by all the humans who will covet it. And you see the results of that. The dreaded results of that. How that happens, and that's how it goes. And then after the part 1's done, they'll start a new part 2, which involves Azhrarn interfering with this one king who claims to be a god. He stops him, but his daughter. She escapes as a young child, but is highly injured. She lives peacefully with this young magic user, but he dies, and she lives so innocently that cruelty comes to her through this young prince who, she was injured as a young child. She has deformed limbs and a broken face. And the man who raised her did what he could, but she's now hideously deformed. And she finally meets someone in the outside world and treats her harshly for her ugly looks. And there's this, arrogant young prince. And later, more horrible things happen to her, where she now becomes a magic using a woman seeking her revenge on Azhrarn. And then a series of stories involving on that and what happens to her. And the third story is third series of stories involves a young girl who Azhrarn tries to seduce, but she refuses every time. So he ruins her life by transforming her husband on their wedding night into a hideous monster, taking the soul of her child, and having a demon cut the soul in half, where the male side goes into a stillborn child and brings it to life, while the female form gets into the one that was intended to. So you have these 2 halves of the souls in 2 different bodies trying to search for each other, and Azhrarn is trying to stop that. So I'm trying not to get too much into each story, but you kind of see the pattern of this, where in one part you see a series of sequential stories of one event kind of leading to another. And all of these are either directly or indirectly involving the Demon Prince and how he interacts with it through his own pleasures or his own anger, what have you. Now, a lot of people have described Tanith Lee's writing style. They say she has a master of the English language, and I can see why. She has this wonderful way of presenting the world, very dark and colorful and what have you. Some people call this Arabian Nights, and another thing you should probably know, at least when I read it, I had this sort of visual, colorful imagery of Ridley Scott's Legend, one of my favorite fantasy movies growing up. So if you like Legend and that sort of tone atmosphere, I read Knight's Master and get a similar tone in some scenes about this. One of the things I've noticed, and I'm not saying that one copied the other, I'm sure I know the author is aware of Tanith Lee, is that how this book comes about with the central point of view, central character of Azhrarn, and how he interacts with the world reminds me of Neil Gaiman's Sandman. Where in this, the main character of the series, Morpheus, the Dream King, these are stories where how he interacts with the world and the people around him, and then later how, if not directly, then indirectly, how it all comes back to him. So, I'm not going to claim theft. I think one maybe influences the other, or maybe it's just coincidence, don't know, but I just found it interesting. So, especially a few key moments. If you've already read The Sandman and didn't read this, you're like, oh, that's almost exactly like this. I mean, until I hear, otherwise, I'm not going to make accusations of somebody stealing from somebody else. This was, by the way, this came up before, of course, 1979, if I recall. Let me take a look. It's 78. And at least in this one, it's got, occasionally few illustrations here and there. This was talking about the girl who was raised with horrible deformities and raises up to be a witch, causing havoc around the world and what have you. And another illustration here. This has some illustrations. And just for those who want to know, George Barr is the illustrator of both the cover and the internal one. So that's in this copy I have. Doubt that's in all of them, of course. So definitely worth a read if you love that sort of wonderful dark fairy tale, Arabian Nights, as some people describe as stories like Arabian Nights. You love that sort of atmospheric fantasy, like in Ridley Scott's Legends, and just what have you. And as it's adult fantasy, there may be scenes in there you may not like, if you're not too far into that, but it doesn't give exquisite details, what have you. But Knight's Master by Tanith Lee, give it all a try. Thank you all for watching and have a nice day.